Have you ever just stopped and thought about the magic of modern AI image generators? You type in something wild like a corgi DJing a rave in outer space, and seconds later, you've got this incredible image. It honestly feels like alchemy. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at one of the biggest secrets behind it all. Okay, so what is the hidden link? I mean, think about it. On one hand, you've got a super precise, life-saving MRI of a human brain. And on the other, you've got this totally fantastical piece of art from Midjourney or Dali. They couldn't be more different, right? Well, it turns out they actually share a common ancestor, a really foundational bit of tech. And that common piece of DNA is this amazing AI architecture called the UNet. You probably never heard the name, but trust me, it is an absolute powerhouse in the world of computer vision. And its story is pretty incredible. So let's get into what this thing actually is. All right, let's properly meet the UNet. In this first part, we're going to break down this clever piece of engineering, from where it started in medicine to how it's now shaping our entire visual culture. So at its heart, UNet is what's called a convolutional neural network. Whoa, big words, right? But all that really means is that it's an AI that's just really, really good with pictures. It was actually born in the medical world. Its whole job was to look at a complex scan and segment it, which is basically a fancy way of saying it could find and draw a perfect outline around specific things, like individual cells or even tumors. And it was built to do this with amazing accuracy, even when it didn't have a ton of data to learn from. And here's the crazy part, how fast this all happened. The UNet was first dreamed up in 2015, building on some earlier ideas. But in less than 10 years, it jumped from a research lab to being the engine inside the most popular, most powerful AI art generators on the planet. I mean, that's just an incredible leap. And this picture right here perfectly explains the name. It's called a UNet because, well, look at it. It's literally shaped like a U. But the magic isn't just the shape. It's about the journey an image takes through it, going all the way down one side and then coming all the way back up the other. It looks simple, it looks elegant, and as you're about to see, it is ridiculously powerful. So how does this U-shape work its magic? Let's trace the path and actually walk through that down and up journey an image takes from start to finish. Let's use an analogy here. Picture an artist about to start a sketch. One of the first things they do is they kind of squint their eyes, right? Why do they do that? They're trying to blur out all the little details so they can just see the main shapes and the overall composition. They're getting the context. Well, the UNet does something almost exactly like that. This is the first half of the trip, going down the left side of the U. This is the contracting path. It's the squinting part. The network keeps shrinking the image, making it smaller and smaller. Now, as it does this, it loses some of the tiny details, but that's the point, because what it gains is a high-level understanding of what it's looking at. It's figuring out the big picture. Now let's move to the other side of the U. So our artist has the main shapes down. Now what? Well, they lean in close and start adding all the fine details, the shading, the crisp lines. This is the expansive path. The network takes that big picture understanding it just learned and uses it to build the image back up. But this time, it's creating a super detailed and precise output, pixel by pixel. Okay, but hang on a second. You might be wondering, if it blurred everything out on the way down to get the big picture, how on earth does it remember where all the tiny, important details are supposed to go on the way back up? That is the perfect question. And the answer, well, that's what makes the UNet so brilliant. The secret sauce here is something called skip connections, and they're pretty much what they sound like. They're like these little information highways that create a shortcut, skipping right across the U. So on the way down, when the network is squinting, it's also making a note of where all the fine details are. The skip connections then grab that precise where information and shoot it directly across to the other side where the network is busy rebuilding. This lets it perfectly combine the what it's looking at with the where everything needs to be. It's just genius. So we get how it works now, but the real story here is just how massive its impact has been. How did this architecture, built for a very specific medical job, completely explode into all these other areas? Let's look at that journey from the hospital to the art studio. So it started by finding cells in a medical scan. Today, it's the engine behind AI art. It does something called iterative denoising. The AI starts with just a screen full of random noise, like TV static. Then, using the UNet, it looks at that static and step by step cleans it up based on your text prompt. It keeps refining it, removing the noise until a clear image appears. It's the same core idea. Understand the big picture, then rebuild with detail. It's just applied in this wildly creative new way.
And its versatility is just staggering. Seriously, it's not just about making pretty pictures. UNet is still a total titan in the sciences. It's being used to segment brains and livers, to analyze microscopic images of new materials, to build 3D models. It's even predicting how proteins will behave. This is not a one-trick pony. It's become a truly fundamental scientific tool.
And on top of all that, it is incredibly fast. Even back in 2015, on a graphics card from that era, the UNet could analyze a high-resolution image in less than a single second. And that combination, being both super precise and super fast, that's the magic formula. That's why it's been adopted everywhere.
Okay, so if UNet has already conquered medical imaging and generative art, where else could it possibly go? You might think it's done, but the answer might surprise you.
What's absolutely fascinating is that researchers are now trying to use UNet for language. Yeah, you heard me right, for text. This title is from a real research paper. The idea is, if this architecture is so good at understanding how all the pixels in an image relate to each other, maybe it can also be used to understand how words and concepts relate to each other in a sentence. It's a whole new frontier. So think about that. From identifying a cancer cell to creating a sprawling alien landscape, this one beautifully simple U-shaped idea has fundamentally changed how computers see and create. It really makes you wonder, if it's already mastered pixels and it's starting to take on words, what part of our world is it going to reshape next?